Testing, testing. Testing. Emoji Pop, testing. Hello, how's it going, everybody? This is going to be the very first Emoji Pop stream. These daily streams I'm going to be using to play my game and show it off for everybody. I'm also going to be using this time to walk players through some specific design challenges and lessons, and also be using this time to play test players' levels that they create in the game. So for those of you who don't know, Emoji Pop is a web-based mobile game. It's a bubble shooter, so it's similar to a match 3 like Candy Crush, where you're making matches, except in bubble shooters you're actually firing off shots. So let me show you really fast. Okay, so to the right we have the game Emoji Pop. Let me just open up a level. So this is the main game right here, but we have buttons on the bottom we can hit. So if I hit the pencil button on the bottom, this brings up the level editor. So we can quickly make a really simple level. Just put in a couple matches using the emojis. And let's hit test. And I can play the level. There we go. So the idea is, by playing the game, you beat levels and unlock new worlds that come with their own new emojis that totally change the gameplay. So for example, in this level that I'm in right now, I have snails. These snails emojis, they move one space each turn, so they add a little bit of dynamicism, they add a little bit of movement to the level design. So each world you unlock a new emoji, and every time you unlock a new emoji in the game, you also unlock it in the editor. So you can go ahead and use all of your new emojis to create crazy new levels. And once you have a level saved, it goes into your level browser. And you can view all your levels. And you can also share your levels directly onto social media for the whole world to play, which is pretty unique in terms of these kind of video games. So I can just hit the copy button to send the link directly to my friends that I want to challenge to beat the level or something. Or you can share it directly onto social media. And if you do that, use the hashtag EmojiPop, and I will play your level, and I'll play it on the stream, and I'll give you feedback in person so that you can improve your game design skills. So today, today is meant to be just a test to make sure the stream is working. I want to listen to it back and make sure the audio is working, and it's going. I'm streaming simultaneously on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, so I just want to make sure everything is working today. And I'm going to be streaming every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from here on in. I'm not exactly sure what time. I was thinking mornings, but I'm going to figure that out. And I have a lot to learn with all this stuff. So I'm just going to... Let's play the first world. Hold on, let me set this up. I think I want to go through the first world of the game first, and I want to explain the way I design my levels in the game, so that you'll know what I was thinking when I built the game, and you can kind of inflect your own lessons. You can learn by the way that I make my levels and incorporate that into your own level design strategies. So let me just reset my progress. Switch it back to waiting for a second. Alright, I've almost got it working now. Okay, so this is World 1 of Emoji Pop. So normally, I think a lot of people are familiar with these kind of mobile puzzle games. Most people are familiar with Match 3s, like Candy Crush and Toon Blast and Gardenscapes. So in those games, you play by tapping on tiles or swapping tiles, these little colored boxes, and by interacting with these colored boxes, you make matches, and you're trying to beat the level in a certain number of moves. So bubble shooters, which is what Emoji Pop is, bubble shooters are similar in the sense that they involve colored matches, so they often get lumped together with games like Candy Crush, but actually they're very, very different. And so something I've noticed is that the developers of these bubble shooters, they designed them just like they would Match 3s, because they're both games that involved matching colors for casual players. So just superficially, most people think that they should be the same, that they should work the same, so they're designed the same way. Also, Match 3s like Candy Crush, they've made billions and billions of dollars. So to change the way we design bubble shooters to make them different than Match 3s, that seems counterintuitive to a lot of larger developers that make these games right now, because they're so focused on what are the successful games on the market now and how do we best replicate them most closely. So I'm kind of out of that bubble, which gives me a little bit of a fresh perspective on these games. So bubble shooters I've decided to design completely differently in Emoji Pop. So whereas in most puzzle games, you're given a linear list of levels called a Sega map. And so you start on level 1 in Candy Crush or whatever, and you'll play the same level over and over again until you beat it, and then only then are you allowed to advance to the next level. So this is great for Match 3s, which are highly chance-based. So when you lose a level on a Match 3, you feel confident in your ability to win next time because there's so much chance involved. You feel like your next playthrough will be your lucky playthrough. Similar to the way we play slot machines. When you play a slot machine and you lose, you want to play one more time. You just want to keep playing one more time because you have this gut feeling that the next time you play will be your big jackpot win. And so that really helps the Match 3s. It really this kind of psychological effect on players is really powerful in Match 3s, but it doesn't exist in bubble shooters. This is because bubble shooters are very much based in skill, which is mostly absent in Match 3s. So in Match 3s, there's some skill in the strategy of picking which matches to make, but that skill is limited, and even if you're not executing that skill correctly in Match 3s, you can still get lucky and win levels. In bubble shooters, if you don't have the best strategies, if you don't understand the way the game works exactly, you're not going to be able to win because the game is based in skill. Even mechanically, the game is way more based in skill. So let me show you. So instead of tapping on tiles like in Match 3s, we play... oops, let me open it. We play bubble shooters by aiming and firing these colored bubbles, these emojis. So even though to most people who play video games, this is not a very skill-based mechanic. Most people wouldn't have any difficulty aiming and firing shots. Compared to like games like Call of Duty, where it's very complicated. You're in 3D space and you're aiming and firing. So this doesn't seem skill-based compared to that. But these games are designed, at least in part, for casual gamers, people who haven't played a lot of games, who don't have that dexterity, maybe the game literacy that a lot of other people do. So already, just by having to fire and aim these shots, these games are incredibly based in skill, which is why I wanted to design Emoji Pop differently than the way other bubble shooters are designed. So this is World 1 in Emoji Pop. We see that we can aim shots. I hope that I wanted to give the players the first move they make. I wanted it to not matter. So a common strategy in game design is to introduce, like, we have to, as game designers, we have to teach players how to deal with challenges. And so the best way to introduce players to a new challenge is to allow them to experiment in a penalty-free zone. So we see this in platformers like Mario all the time. You know, the first time you see a mushroom or some new enemy, maybe it's somewhere else and it's not a threat to you, so you can just become familiar with the way it behaves. Or maybe, like, the first time you learn how to jump in a Mario game, you don't jump over a giant chasm that risks death. Your first jump is always a very short jump with something to save you beneath, so that you can keep practicing until you get that jump down. So same thing persists in World 1 of Emoji Pop. So first move, all of this right here is, I call it soap emojis. So soap emojis pop no matter what you hit at it. So if you watch, I'm going to shoot something at it, and it all pops together. So this way, no matter where the player aimed, it was going to launch and pop those bubbles. So already the player knows, okay, even if I didn't execute that correctly or didn't know what I was doing, I know that I can aim and fire these emojis, and then stuff happens after it hits whatever it hits. So then the next move, I have colored emojis. So I can't just aim everywhere. So I just shot up randomly again and nothing happened. So I'm hoping players know maybe, or they get the urge to experiment and try to make a match. And eventually, I'm guessing they'll make that match and be able to advance. And so I'm hoping they remember the soap is an automatic drop point, but some of them may not have remembered this. They may try to make matches. And if they do that, I'm going to keep giving them blues, so they're basically forced to experiment and try hitting the soap, and that'll drop everything. So one of the most important strategies in Emoji Pop is the way the game mechanically works is that you're trying to climb to the top of a level. So I'm using these rows of soap as reinforcement towards that concept. So every time you hit one of them, it gives you a big drop and the level scrolls down. So it's positive reinforcement for that behavior, for making these big pops. So let's see, next move, we're faced with these colored emojis again, but now there's two rows, so it's adding a little bit of complexity. And this is actually, if you were new to the game, this would be where the swap tutorial goes. So you're not just firing one emoji at a time, you actually have a choice. You can pick which emoji you want to fire. So this adds a lot of strategy to the game. Not only are you wondering, where should I be shooting this emoji? It's also, where should I be shooting this emoji? Or is there another emoji that I can fire that gives me more advantage? So it's a constant question of which emoji to pick will give me the most reward. So that constant choice is really propels the player forward. It makes it so that the players don't get bored just constantly like making these little decisions. Like they're constantly in this complex choice. And that gets players more to think about what they're doing. So a concern with some early players to Emoji Pop and other bubble shooters is that at the beginning they don't really know what they're doing, so they kind of just fire shots off willy-nilly. So making this strategic choice really present is important because it makes players think like, okay, there's a choice here, like maybe I should be considering options. It gets them into that strategic mindset. So I'm hoping, again, I want them to be going for these soap pops, but even if they like waste some time like trying to make other matches, like there's not too many matches, so I know eventually they're going to get to where they have to hit the soap, and then maybe this is like the third time they've hit soap, so at this point I hope they remember, oh, this is how this works. Gotta keep hitting these big drop points to keep climbing. So this is the first star in the game. So stars are mini levels. So I just ran out of moves at the same time. So stars unlock mini levels that are more they're more similar to the kinds of levels you find in games like Candy Crush. So if I beat this level, actually I'll go back. So I just ran out of moves in the game that I'm playing. I have 0 moves left over. So you run out of moves, and when that happens, you'll have to give the game a break and then come back to it later once your moves have regenerated. So you're basically constantly playing these levels. The way I've designed it in this way is that I didn't want to ever block a player's progress completely. So like I said, in most games like Candy Crush, if you can't beat a level, you're stuck there forever. And this is really frustrating to players, especially in Emoji Pop where it's much more skill-based. So you basically are never stuck in Emoji Pop. If you run out of moves, you'll eventually gain more so that you can beat the main worlds. But to assist you all along the way are stars that are scattered across these worlds. So if I beat this star level, I'll earn more moves, which will allow me to continue progressing up the world. So by continuing to beat stars and earn moves, I'm going to be able to make a lot of progress quickly in this game. If I lose these levels, I'm not going to be making very much progress. So these star levels are pretty important. So this is the very first mini level in the game. So it's 3 colors. So the more colors you have in a level, right now it can be between 3 and 6. The more colors there are, the more choices there are. So the more choices there are, the more of a burden it is on the player, the more difficult it can become. So I wanted to have 3 colors just to make it really basic. And prevent players from... I want players to beat this first level. I want them to have that good first experience. So something you'll notice is when you aim, in the other world we were playing, the game was showing us exactly where the emojis were going to land. But in this level, now that we're inside this level, I don't show you exactly where it's going to land. So that adds a little bit of skill to the game. So I not only do I have to choose where is the best place to shoot this emoji, I have to aim it and hope that I aim it correctly in order to shoot it. So let me play a few moves with this. One thing that I need to train players in the long run to do is to make sure they're going for these top bubbles. So the higher matches in Emoji Pop are always more valuable than the lower ones, because if you make the big matches higher up, it'll drop all the lower matches that you would have wasted all these moves on. So I'm trying to design levels in a way that encourages players to go for the higher up matches. So I do that in the world with those soap bubbles like I was talking about. Every time you hit these big rows of soap, everything drops and you get to keep climbing higher. So that's kind of one way I started doing it. In this mini level, for example, the 3 main matches you have to make are these 3 giant triangles at the top, the yellow, red, and blue triangles. And all of the other little ones are just accessory matches that you're kind of digging through to get to the top. So the essential matches are much bigger and they stand out, and all of the non-essential matches are smaller and towards the bottom. So that's my way of trying to visually communicate what's important in this level. So I'm hoping players, by kind of just narrating my thoughts on the levels I play, I'm hoping that players will be able to kind of learn what I was thinking when making these levels, and they'll be able to kind of use my techniques to make their own levels, basically. The stream will be pretty short today. This is literally just a test to make sure things are working as I was hoping. Still setting everything up. Don't really know much about streaming or videos or anything like that, so I'm just learning as I go. Alright, so we won the level. So because we won the level, we get to spin the slot machine. So this is the thing that's going to get us the moves. So I got all 4 smiley faces, which means plus 10 moves. So now we have 10 moves to use on the level. Alright, so let's continue. So hit the soap, drop everything. So I didn't scroll because I'm at the top of the level now. So I have an interesting choice. There's a lot of colored emojis here. Do I want to climb through them to get to the top row of soap? Or do I want to go this way, which takes a little longer to get to the soap, but there's a star along the way. So I'm hoping, I think some players will kind of not be used to the value of stars at this point, so they'll skip it. But players who do want to go for the stars are going to feel extra good because they went out of their way to get one. So this level, I made it fewer columns, so the emojis are bigger, so which kind of changes the gameplay. I wanted to alert players to the possibility of these levels are going to be different in like major ways. I'm not familiar with any modern bubble shooter on the app stores that changes the size of the board, so that's a unique point that I wanted to show off. So having played these levels 1,000 times, I know the exact best way to accomplish them. So I went up the left side. Mostly when players, the way players play levels like this is they start making matches and they'll just continue up that path. They won't be making matches everywhere. Their nature is to keep digging one way, which is actually a pretty good strategy, usually. Cool, level, so I get to play the slot machine again. Again, four smiley faces means plus 10 moves. I completed a star chest, so I get some bonus moves and a booster. There's like little bugs I'm seeing here and there. I'm still sorting everything out, kind of. Alright, so I'm gonna keep climbing. And again, like, this is basically the test of the whole level. Players could waste a ton of moves making all these little matches. They should know that you should hit these soaps at the top in order to drop them. Cool, so we beat the world. So by completing the world, we also get to play the slot machine, which gives us another 10 moves, because I'm super lucky today. Alright, so we unlock a new world, which is the rocket world. There's these little videos of me explaining aspects of the game if you want to watch the tutorial for the next world. So the way the rocket works, so each world we're going to unlock a new emoji, and they're going to get crazier and crazier. So for this first one, the rocket emoji, you just hit it and it'll clear the whole row. Like that. I'll do it again. They'll all clear each other. So the reason why I wanted the rocket emoji as the next obstacle in the game is because it's super powerful in the sense that it clears the whole row, kind of like popping those giant soap rows in the last world worked. They clear the row and allow you to scroll up. So they're really good objective points, and they really reinforce what I was talking about, which is getting players trained to the strategy of keep climbing up higher towards these objective points at the top in order to, and don't get distracted by all the little matches. So for example here, like a brand new player might make all these little tiny matches, but I'm hoping that they strive for these important critical points, which is the little rockets. So that's kind of my way of allowing them to have it creates like a basic strategy that really goes with one of the core strategies that players need to have, but it's like pretty simple at the same time. It's self-explanatory. So this is also the position of our first speed level. So these red stars, you can mash them or just hit them, and we get to play a speed level, which I don't think any of the modern bubble shooters on app stores have a mode like this. I played a game called Dynamite as a kid, and it had a mode like this, and I absolutely loved it. It was really intense. So the idea is these bubbles are going to keep scrolling down, and if it ever gets to the bottom, you have like 2 seconds to quickly fix it, or the shoe is going to drop. So I'm just going to let the shoe drop here. So we lost that level, and we get to try 3 times. So let's try again. It's a 3-color level, and it's pretty small. I didn't want it to be too hard, so fewer colors means players usually have a good move to make. Uh-oh. And then having it be a smaller level with fewer emojis per row means that players don't have to make as many matches. They're not as pressed for time. Cool, one again. Oh, didn't get as lucky this time. Only got 6 moves off the slot machine. These are all little events, kind of, that also give you bonus moves. Alright, so 2 choices. We could go for this rocket here, or this big gap right here really catches your eyes and gravitates players towards it, and it's got a rocket right above it, so I'm kind of inclined to go this way. And once we hit the rocket, like I was saying, it drops everything else, and we keep going forward. So we got another star emoji. Okay. After this, I might design some levels. So again, going for the rockets. The difficulty in this is that the matches are much smaller, so there's a lot more digging. So again, I could go for the rocket, or I could just go for the top rockets. I think I might just climb to the top at this point. I have 10 more moves. Might as well hit the rocket, I guess. So this level, I'm thinking, might be the first level that players lose. I'm playing as a fairly experienced player at this point. Like when I play my own levels, sometimes I play them as if I'm a total new person and I just make some random choices sometimes. I'm playing a pretty strategical game right now, and I got there with only a few moves left, so there's definitely players who are going to lose. I want them to eventually lose, to be confronted with the fact that they learn how many tries they get per level. That's something that they need to lose to learn at first. And also, by giving players an early loss, a lot of players I've noticed, until they lose, they don't see any punishment for not doing well, so they don't really think about the game very much. They don't strategize their moves. They kind of just make random moves without thinking about it until they lose, and then they're like, oh, okay, I should be trying to pay a little bit better attention. That kind of snaps them into it. So I think it is important to make new players confront losing early on. It can't be all just winning. Alright, and then let's just finish out this world. Oh, we got this soap up here. I remember how to use that. Blue. Alright, so we've unlocked the top rockets. And we get to go on to the next world. Again, this is just a test. I'm just kind of running through the game a little bit to make sure everything's working. I want to have like more planned activities for these Emoji Pop casts, where I'll be doing like specific challenges or specific. I'll be covering specific game design lessons for the game or whatever. Okay, I'm gonna stop there for now. Really quickly, I'm just going to take you through making a basic level. Then I might log off for a bit. So, this is something I'm going to get into a lot, but in Emoji Pop level design, there are a few properties for levels. And so, kind of like any game, like look at a game like Call of Duty, there's lots of elements in that game. If you were a game designer on Call of Duty and you were to make a mission, there's a lot of properties that you have to consider. You have to consider the pacing of the level, for example. You have to consider the lighting. You have to consider the environment. All these things working together. You have to consider the enemy design. So no matter what game you're designing for, you have to break down the level design into its atoms in order to understand it. And so with Emoji Pop, some of those atoms include, for example, how many colors are you going to use in a level. So that's one really important property that really affects how levels play. So I could do a 3-move level. So I can add emojis to the level by just clicking them in the panel and then just drawing them on the board. So I could do a 3-move level. 3-move levels, you always have colors present. So let me just fill out a little bit more. So imagine I had a level filled with these red, yellow, green matches. So you're never going to get stuck because there's always going to be lots of matches to make. You only have a few colors and there's so many little matches everywhere. Versus if I did it with 6 colors. So with 6 colors, that means there's a lot more variability. There's a lot more of a chance that I'll get stuck while playing the level, because whereas before I had a couple red matches, a couple yellow matches, right here I only have one of each match. So if I accidentally get a couple purples in my queue back to back or something, and there's only one purple match, like it increases the odds that I'm going to get a little bit more stuck. So that's one effect of having a level with a lot of colors or a few colors. So that's kind of one perspective to view Emoji Pop level design through. I'm going to erase all these by clicking the eraser button. Okay, so the number of colors is an important factor in level design. Another factor is the size of matches. So if matches are really big and bulky, that's going to lower the number of matches players have access to. It's going to make things a little blockier. Versus if it was a bunch of tiny little matches, that lends itself better towards player like digging through it and stuff, versus this is kind of chunky and more strategic, because which color you pick really matters when there's not that many matches on the board. Not only is match size important, but match pattern is important too. So sometimes when I design my levels, I pick one atom to start off with. So I usually say I want to make a 6-color level for some reason, and maybe I'll think of a match size strategy. So I want 6 colors and I want tiny matches. That might be my springboard that launches me into designing a level. So I'll just make little matches with all 6 colors and I'll design it a certain way, and out of that the other atoms kind of emerge. So the other big atom having to do with matches is match pattern. So if I want to make a level with tiny matches, I could make them so that all the matches are horizontal, and you kind of have to dig through them all. Or I could make them so that they're like going down like this, and this is going to have a very big effect on the gameplay. So let me draw them over here too. So a whole level like what we have on the right side with the horizontal matches, it's going to feel like you're kind of digging through a puzzle when you play that. Versus if we had a whole level like with the diagonal matches, the diagonal nature of it's going to kind of require some like tight aiming. So like if I had a little more here. So for example, if I want to hit this yellow match, I kind of have to more precisely aim, and I'm kind of going through shots. So that's kind of how the match pattern affects the way a game plays. So all these atoms, when you're designing a level, you're kind of thinking, you're kind of trying to view your level through each one of these lenses. Another really important lens through which to view your level design is structure. So do you want to have a level that's really big and bulky, like it covers everything? So this is a structure where there's no gaps and you're just kind of digging through it. So that's one structure. Or we could do a structure where it's literally just kind of tall and skinny going down the middle or something. So those two structures are very different. They're four very different gameplay styles. So the big bulky structure, you're going to be digging through it, but this one, it's going to require you to kind of aim and bounce off the walls and aim higher up. So both of these have you could use the same match pattern on each of them and they'll play very differently. So structure is another really important lens through which we view level design. So when I want to make a level, since there's so many elements to the levels. There's so many ways to get started. I usually just pick a couple of these atoms. So I say, okay, I want to make a 4-color level. So I decide that, and then I say, okay, maybe I want the. Then I'll decide like the structure or something. Maybe I want like a couple columns or something. So it's 4 colors, and it's kind of more about aiming since there's a column structure. So let's just draw the structure first. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to want or not, so I'm just kind of throwing something on the board right now with 1 color to get the structure down. And maybe the middle is a little bit bulkier. So it's like 1 more thicker than the outsides. So looking at the structure, it could be interesting because I like that there's these gaps, kind of like you kind of wedge stuff in there. It would be cool if maybe based on the emojis I picked to go in the level, the obstacles, like I could include some interesting like gameplay moments in these little cracks. Let's go ahead and fill out our structure with the match pattern. So maybe I'll make these for now match sizes of 2 and kind of draw them like this, and just see how it kind of plays and then modify it from there. Alright, let's do it on the other side. I'm trying to make sure that, for example, I don't want to just copy the same colors on the right hand side. I want it to be more balanced, because if there's a red blue here and a red blue here, that's limiting a player's choices. So you want to make sure the match pattern is going to be the same on both sides. It's going to be symmetric, but it's going to be using different colors at each point so that players always have all 4 colors to hit, basically. Green, red. So I'm going blue, yellow, green, red. And then blue. Okay. So now, thinking of the middle, I want to draw the colors in a way so that maybe there's some cross-match opportunities. So a cross-match is when you shoot an emoji and it makes matches with 2 different matches that were not connected, but you kind of shoot it in between the matches to make a giant match. So that would be a really good like release point for players. So for example, there's a yellow here. Maybe I'll keep this yellow match here. Red here. Maybe I'll put like a red here. I'm gonna put a green here just to make sure. Oh, I need a yellow. So another thing is we have to look at the bottom of our level and make sure players have each color available to them. Nothing is worse than starting a level and you already don't have a move to make. That already feels like the game was predestined to make you lose. So I'm going to make sure I have a yellow here and a green here for players. Maybe I'll put yellow over here. I'll keep red here and put the green here. So I have the yellow here for the yellow match here. Maybe I'll put a blue here. I'm not seeing good. I could put a green here for this green match, maybe. We need red. Yellow. Blue would be good for this blue match right next to it. We haven't had a red in a while, and there's a red match there. So if I hit a red emoji right here, that would be a cross match. It would also drop down this left side. We need a green. We can put one here. Let's keep the yellow there. We need a red and a blue. So I'm just kind of haphazard putting this together, and a green. Another thing to consider, we have to consider the bottom to make sure there's one of each color off the bat for players to hit. We also have to do the same thing at the top. So this red, this yellow, this blue, those are the essential matches. Basically, if it was possible, if players could only make these 3 matches, they would drop everything else. So those are the 3 necessary matches. So we have to make sure, for example, if these were all red, that would be horrible, because at the end, players would be like, they would make one red match, and then they'd be waiting and waiting for the next red to come, and it would just be really frustrating. They're just basically hanging out the top waiting for the right colors. So that's not good. We want to feel like a puzzle, and the end should be like the climax to that puzzle. So I'm gonna change it back. Alright, so let's just save it and test it out. And we're gonna learn. So a lot of times when you're designing these kinds of levels, like you can't just totally design them in your head. You have to put something down, and a lot of times the direction I'm heading with the level, once I play it for the first time, I learn all this stuff about the way it played, or I see something new in it, and it goes a totally different direction just based off of the playthrough. So let's start. I'm just gonna make this match. Another thing to consider is when you're playing your own level, you should play it a couple times probably. You should play it from the perspective of a veteran Emoji Pop player, someone who's really good at the game, to see how it plays. And then you should also play it as a total newbie to the game, someone who's not very good, to make sure that they still have a good experience, even though they don't have maybe as good of a chance of winning. It shouldn't be a frustrating experience. They should still feel like they have a chance of winning. So it feels a little cramped at the beginning. There's not too many choices because the towers go all the way down and there's no shooting around them. But I kind of like that. It'll feel kind of freeing once I make a few matches and I'm able to kind of shoot up higher. There's something... Okay. Alright, I'm gonna switch to this red so I can drop the yellow. Maybe I'll try to take out some of the lower stuff here. Cool. So I can drop all this by hitting the yellow, and that allows me to scroll up to the top. So I've used 5 moves so far, and then I got my first scroll. That felt good. Like, invested a little bit, and then I got rewarded with the scroll. Like, that's like a pretty good introduction, I think. So it's a little too easy to chip stuff off, I think. Like, almost every move I'm chipping stuff away, which is okay, but I think I would like to make them earn it, or maybe I like that at the beginning, but I want it to get a little more hard at the end. So the level when you make a level, sometimes it's consistent throughout. So another add-on to level design, one that's more complex, is pacing. So it's less what's on the screen and more just the experience of playing the level. Some levels kind of stay the same throughout. That can be one kind of pacing. But usually you like your levels to like evolve a certain way, which is it's what we expect out of our books, our movies, everything. It should always be like building to a point, kind of. So that's kind of what I want to change about this level. The beginning is kind of like, it feels like it's a playground, like easy matches, easy drops that should be building towards like a more real test, or something twisted at the end. So I'm not sure what I want yet. I could like just fill in some of these gaps maybe at the top half. Since I don't have too many emojis unlocked on this account yet, like usually one thing that a playthrough will teach me is, like I'll notice, it feels kind of basic, it feels kind of on the rails, this level, and then I'll think of, I can use this obstacle that I unlocked in the game that really mixes things up. This would be a really good pairing for this level. So that's something that I usually gain from playtesting my levels. It's what obstacle belongs in this level, what kind of dynamic should I try to incorporate. So let's try to do that just with basic bubbles, not with emojis yet. Maybe we could put these bubble wraps. So these bubble wraps pop when you hit them. Maybe I could add some into the middle here. Maybe that would add some challenge or something. We can test it. So like a few moves that are easy, that drop some stuff. Okay, so now I'm trying to kind of hit the matches while I'm also hitting the bubble wraps so that I can kind of get more bang for my buck out of these moves. That feels like it's already become kind of more strategic. So this is a good feeling match. But there's not as much like opportunities to make some good shots that chop off a lot of stuff. Yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of that. maybe there's just too many of them. Maybe if we tried to use them a little, maybe we could use soap, and use it a little more sparingly. Let's just try that. So I have to kind of hit those soaps while making another match in order to kind of save moves. So that kind of adds a little bit of strategy. It blocks some stuff off, but without blocking too much stuff off. We'll just see how it goes. Let's make the blue match first instead. Oh, cool. This yellow match here feels really good, and it pops those soap bubbles. Green. Can I get the green in there? Yes, I can. Yeah, so, I don't know. This level's alright. It's a little bit boring. If I had some, I would really like to incorporate the dice emoji, but I haven't unlocked that yet in here. So the way the dice works is that you hit it and it rolls and it can change colors and maybe match stuff around it. So I feel like that would make it a little more dynamic, this level. That's something that I think I would use. Another thing you can always do is you can change... I started making this level, it seems a little basic. Maybe it would be good to make it a speed level. So what I do is... I was in draw mode, but I go to edit and then go to mode. I can change it to the auto scroll mode, and then I can change what speed I want it to be. And I think, yeah, so let's try it. So I think this level lends itself well to being a speed level because there's a lot of basic choices, but those choices get a lot more interesting the way it scrolls. Oh. So it'd probably make it a little bit easier, but I don't know. It might make a good... The best moves to make are always towards the bottom, and so that kind of lends itself towards for good speed levels because it feels good in standard levels to be kind of having these higher up shots that feel really valuable, but when you're playing a speed level, you're not really focused on the top. You're always just trying to chip away at the bottom to make sure you're not in danger. And so that's kind of felt like that felt like what I was doing naturally while playing the level. So that kind of, I think, makes a good speed level. Maybe I would make it maybe make the matches a little bulkier so there's fewer of them, so players aren't as time pressed in that level. But I do like the way that kind of worked. All right, so this has been a good test. Just make sure no one said anything in the chats. Nope, cool. So this is something I'm still working on. If you have any feedback for the way I express myself on these podcasts, on these streams, or if you have anything that you'd like me to do in these, or any feedback whatsoever, I'm totally open to figuring all this out on my own right now. So thanks for watching.